Arguably, the greatest contribution to world culture made by the United States of America is film. Hollywood. Hollywood shows the world the face of America, or does it? We ask that question of our next guest, Madeleine Lim of the Queer Women of Color Media Project. Welcome.
Hi.
Talk to me about the Annenberg study we were just talking about before the interview started. What is it, and what did it prove about what I was just talking about, the face of America in film?
Sure. You know, sometimes people think with the rise of digital technology that it's easier now or more accessible to make films, but what the USC, University of Southern California, their Media and Communications Department just put out, the Annenberg study, is that out of the 700 latest films that were surveyed, 3% were women directors, out of 700 films. And out of the 3%, 0.5% were women of color directors. So if you take a look at who's behind the camera making the films, there's not a lot of diversity there. And if you take a look at in front of the camera, you know, all you have to do is take a look at Oscars So White this year, right? The protest by Spike Lee, Will Smith, you know, talking about why, you know, are there no actors of color that are worthy of merit? Right, so there's a lot of work that needs to be done before the in front of the camera as well as behind the camera.
So, are you saying, and does the study point to the fact that there are just no women and women of color behind the camera, or just their films don't become one of the 700? They don't become popular. Which is it?
They study sort of across the board the big budget Hollywood studio films that get produced by anyone. And then they just sort of break that down according to gender, race identity, even age. So there's a whole, I mean, you know, every year they put out this report.
So has it gotten worse, or has it stayed kind of flat over the last few years?
It hasn't improved.
Yeah.
It hasn't improved to the point where ACLU is actually suing the Hollywood studios for labor practices, discriminatory labor practices.
So why does this happen? I mean, you know, here we're in California. We're here in this bubble called Northern California, where diversity is our middle name, or they like us to think that it is our middle name. How do you get Hollywood to actually show the face of America? I mean, we're a country that is 55% women. We're in a state of California that is majority, minority, quote unquote. Is Hollywood really showing us reality?
No, not at all. Hollywood is all about show business. They are into making money, as we know, right? If Batman makes money, they're going to make Batman 2 and Batman 3 and Batman 4. If Superman makes money, you see what I'm saying? So it's all about the money. I mean, you know, when what was that show? San Francisco, that police show that was based in San Francisco?
Oh, The Streets of San Francisco.
The Streets of San Francisco. And any time that there were people of color, it was always Chinese gangs in Chinatown, as if there are no other people of color in the rest of San Francisco. And we know, according to, you know, sort of the latest census, San Francisco is 2/3 people of color. So it's not reality at all. You go into any hospital, any clinic, any, you know, the doctors are primarily people of color doctors.
Right. So
on any of these shows, it's non-existent.
Yeah. So would you say that Hollywood is racist or just clueless?
I think it's driven by money. It's driven by what
that's
they
a way of
think
avoiding
is
the
going
question.
to make money. And whatever is not tried and true, they're not going to take a risk there. Right,
but again, if the audience is comprised of people of color, I mean, you know, like I think we had on an earlier show the head of Frameline on. You know, Frameline, yes, does good work and it's great, but also those filmmakers want to make money too. They're queer people who want to see their lives reflected on film. There's got to be communities of color that want to see films out of Hollywood.
We all do. We all do. I mean, all my life, I've been, you know, looking at media and television, looking for representation and images of myself. I mean, you know, as a butch, you know, masculine presenting, you know, Asian person, you know, also an immigrant. I mean, I have yet to see myself in any of these films if I don't make them myself. Right. So that's why it's so important that, you know, one of the things that we do is actually teach our community how to make films. Right.
So talk to me about your festival just ended. What is the festival about, and what specifically is the work of the Queer Women of Color Media Project about?
Sure. So Queer Women of Color Media Arts Project,
we
do a number of things. Sure. We do a number of things. One of them is we present an annual Queer Women of Color Film Festival that's every June. Our film festival took place June 10th, 11th, 12th this year at the Brava Theater in San Francisco. The other thing, the heart of our organization is our free filmmaking workshops. And we conducted these workshops primarily in San Francisco for many years, and then we were able to actually redesign the curriculum from a semester-long, which is 16-week program, into a 4-day boot camp, and actually took that around the country. So we toured with that. We brought that to Gallup, New Mexico, where all of our participants were queer Navajo women, because we were half-hour away from Window Rock, which is the Navajo state capital. We took that to Little Rock, Arkansas, where there are very, very few resources for the queer community, much less queer people of color, queer women of color community. We just took our filmmaker training program last December to Tijuana, Mexico, and that was our very first international filmmaking workshop. We were very excited about it, and we conducted it in Spanish, no less. And so 8 films were completed out of that process, and those 8 films world premiered at our film festival.
So when I hear you talk about it, I can hear the excitement in your voice, I can see the passion in your face. You seem optimistic about the future, even while you're saying, well, it's not gotten much better, but you seem to be pretty sanguine about it.
Well, you know, it's, there are a few things that, in my mind, that you can do, right? You can continue to make films that represent who you are, your communities,
which is what you do
lives.
as a filmmaker.
Exactly. You can critique Hollywood films. You can put pressure on them in terms of labor laws and things like that. You know, we can have very well-known actors of color like Spike Lee and Will Smith, you know, putting pressure their way with the context that they have. I believe that the work needs to be done on multiple levels, right? And at the same time, sure, we need to continue to pressure Hollywood studios, the big studios, the ones with lots of money, to make changes, right? I don't see it as just, you know, sort of a single thing that you just do.
It's all at the same time.
Exactly. It's got to continue, you know, all at the same time. I mean, Netflix, I think, is really wonderful in trying to sort of screen and air different things. You know, the approach that they took with Orange is the New Black. I believe Transcendence is a new series. So there's a few different shows that are sort of, you know, sort of out there
and
trying to make a difference.
Right.
Exactly, trying to push the envelope in terms of, you know, like, you know, really, this is not risky at all. You know, there's an audience for this. You can actually make money doing this, and we are, right? And that's what speaks to Hollywood. It's all about purse strings.
Well, thanks for helping show to Hollywood there's an audience there, and also making films that reflect that audience. Please come back and talk to us before next year's festival, and we'll talk
All
about
right,
it.
I'd love to do that.
Thanks so much. Our conversation with Madeleine Lim, we appreciate her work behind the camera and in front of the camera. And we thank you for turning here every week, Comcast 104, to watch 10%. Good night.